even though the Lightning and the Stars are about to start.
Now you're just gonna have to suffer without the Lightning and the Stars.
All right, hey everybody, this is Chris Pate. I'm here with my co-host Steve Rodriguez. Just want to give you guys some ground rules real quick. The views and opinions on this show are solely those of the co-hosts and those being interviewed. We are no way affiliated with Bayshore Christian in an official capacity. This is the Bayshore Christian Faith Warrior basketball unofficial page. Tonight, we are very fortunate to have two special guests with us, two guys that are legends in Bayshore basketball. We have Mike Blocher, 3-year letterman and member of the 34-3 finals team, and John Blocher, who played for the Final Four team in 1995. Welcome, guys, to the show. Let's have a good time. You guys have anything you want to say to start off?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's going to be a good time.
John, show us that T-shirt, John. Woo! Oh, even better. Even better.
Oh, man.
All right, so let's get right into it. Blocher versus Blocher, best career at Bayshore Christian. Is it John or Mike? You know, Mike's got the 87 Final Four. He was varsity 3 years. He beat Bloomingdale and Robinson. John's got 13-2 out of the gate his senior year. He's got a Final Four, sectional finals. John, what do you think, man? Who's the best?
It's an obvious choice. I mean, how many 30-point games did you have?
Well, why don't we do this? So as soon as I've already won the poll, I'm number one at going into this. So I'm going to give you the floor, John, and tell me why. You go through all your points, and then I'll go ahead and count them.
Okay, well, we know that polls don't mean much. That's been proven.
Especially when your whole family is the one voting.
That's right. The way I look at it is that we should just call Melanie. Let's get the key to the gym, do a little one-on-one, see what happens.
Now, there you go.
Let's just do it. It'll be fun. Two paramedics.
I'm willing to do that as long as it's half court.
Two paramedics on standby. Right under the hoop. We were both great players. We both played well. We had a great supporting cast. I just know that when I went out of the game, my team was discombobulated. When Mike went out, they still flowed. So that kind of tells me that I was the MVP of the Blocher family.
Well, you know, I'm a numbers guy. So I've never led my team to a losing season like John did, going 18-19.
Oh.
So I don't know how many superstars there are that do that, but I was 76-20 as a varsity player. I donned the uniform of the very best basketball team to ever play for Bayshore, in my opinion, in 87. We were 76-20 as me as a guard. That's a 75% winning ratio. And John was 44-29 with a 61% winning ratio. Now, I don't know how many guys you want to play for, but if you line two guys up and you're at the playground, they're going to go, hey, you want to play for the guy that went 18-19? Or you want to take the guy that went 34-3?
Well, now that all depends.
It doesn't take a poll or a scientific fact to figure out who everybody's going to want to play for. That's just the way it is. Now, look.
Now, wait a minute.
This poll is who had the better career. It's not who the better outside shot was or who scored more points. John could arguably have a argument that he had a better outside shot than me. John was a terrific point guard. I agree that his teams flowed better when he was on the floor. If you take my 12 to 14 point average, my 34-3 year, which there was no 3-point line, and you count how many baskets I scored from the top of the key, which would have been 3-point lines, and you just bump 4 to 6 points a game. Now I'm 18-20 points a game. So the point average
scorebooks to see that. I'd have to see the scorebooks.
The only people that have scorebooks around here is Dwayne Pippen. He stole them all. But go ahead.
So you really can't say, oh, well, I was a higher scorer. He probably scored more points than I did. But if we had Calvin Daniels and Kevin Noriega here, and they take me out, I wonder what their numbers would actually be, because it still takes a really cool cat to get the ball into somebody as often as I did.
Does Noriega really side with you after the Teletubbies posting on his last picture?
I'm not going to say that he didn't call me and say, what are you doing? And I said, well, participate. You participate in the page, and I'll stop posting stuff like that. Until you engage, I'm going to keep blistering you. So,
right. John, a rebuttal.
Well, I wasn't a big scorer. I mean, I could have scored a lot more, but my game was getting Fielder the ball, getting Jed the ball, getting Damon the ball. I mean, hands down, Kelvin Daniels was the best big man that ever stepped in our gym. I mean, it was hands down. And I remember watching him when I was 9, 10, 11.
You could argue the best in Hillsborough County in that decade, at least.
Oh, I mean, super smooth. I mean, he was just awesome. I would have loved to play with somebody as good as him. I mean, I had Fielder. Fielder was a great player. Damon was a great player. Jed was a good player. But, I mean, Kelvin Daniels, you throw it into him, it's 2 points. I mean, it's an automatic 2 points. And,
But the impressive part about that, too, is that it was against Robinson, Jefferson, Armwood. It was against top-level competitors.
Yeah, both of you guys played really challenging schedules. There's Bayshore teams that did not. And there's Bayshore teams that struggled against challenging schedules. And both you guys played good schedules and played well against them. Mike's team probably winning more against the public schools. I want to go right into a story because I heard this today and I thought it was the funniest thing I heard. So John is going into, I played with Mike and I coached John, and John is going into, I think, his sophomore year, and correct me when I'm wrong. And him and Andrew Polito are playing basketball at the Cimarron Apartments. And I think that's in Town and Country. I don't even know if it's still there anymore. And apparently whoever they're playing is running his mouth. So Polito just turns around and cold clocks them. Mike punches his guy and they take off because the big brothers are coming. And I heard that Mike, you called Polito's brother, who's a cop. These guys are coming after our brothers. We got to take care of them. Did all that happen? And how did weren't you in hiding for a couple of days? What happened there?
Well, it was actually on the side of a La Petite daycare. They had a lower rim. And me and Polito used to like to go over there and dunk because it made us feel kind of big. And these guys joined us, and then we played a little 2-on-2, and it got out of hand. And then Polito punched one. The other kid came in, and I punched him, and we kind of handled it pretty good. And then the next day we went back, and then they came back with their older brothers. We weren't in 10th grade because back in 10th grade, we wouldn't have, especially as crazy as Polito and myself are, we wouldn't have been worried about older brothers. We were probably 7th grade, 6th grade. And so, yeah, after the big brother showed up, we ran. I don't know about Mike calling Jeff Polito. I don't remember that, but it was Aslam and Jerome, the two kids in the neighborhood. You remember that when they showed up at the library that day too, when we used to play full court.
Now, I don't remember that, but what I do remember is playing Drew and Jeff in their front
driveway.
In their driveway. And it got out of hand where it was almost a 4-person fisticuff. Andrew and John were almost fought every time they played against each other. If they were on the same team, it was okay. But if they were on the opposite teams, it was a love-hate. They were wanting to go to blows every time we stepped on a court, whether it was the library, the local place, or if we played 2-on-2 in the driveway. It got heated and ugly. And that's a rated R version, not for this show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mrs. Polito running out of the house, yelling and screaming at us. You two need to straighten up, and this is ridiculous. She's got a broom in a hand, with her nightgown on in the middle of the day, yelling and screaming at us.
Kids today don't know that experience at all, I don't think. Mike, tell us a story about yours. One I think about is Coach Valdez was 11-5 lifetime against Jan Bennett as a coach. There's a famous story, a Brandon Robinson witch doctor story, where Brandon upsets Robinson. And then Valdez, when he was at Bayshore, pretty sure he went like 3-1 against him. But in '88, your senior year, y'all open up 1 or 2-0, and you're playing Robinson, and the crowd is packed out. Tell us about that day leading up to the game. I've got your stats here that night. It looked like you had 11 points, 8 assists. Y'all won 50-46.
Nice.
The crowd is serenading Jan Bennett every time. Bennett. Tell us about that game and that day.
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't remember that game in particular. I mean, but there was, every time we stepped into a gym, everybody wanted to beat Bayshore. So it was like that every time we played. So it just became a norm, whether it was Tampa Prep, Berkeley Prep. I mean, if Berkeley Prep ever beat us, oh my God, they would have burned down Tampa, Florida. I mean, it was like going into the Cameron Crazies at Berkeley. They hated us that much.
Right.
So every game had that tension. The only ones that really didn't would be like Temple Heights. And, if you don't beat Temple Heights, then
That's an embarrassment. Yeah, you would have to give up your Bayshore card if you lost.
John lost to Temple Heights. Now, I think that's probably the only time Bayshore ever lost to Temple Heights.
Yeah, but you know what?
If we ever lost to Temple Heights, I wouldn't be on this call. I would have taken my life years ago.
Okay, but let me explain to you there's a reason that we lost that. There's actually 2 reasons. One, before the homecoming game where we played Temple Heights, is when I told Mark Grenier's car driving around listening to his big stereo about 45 minutes before the game started. So I totaled a car and still played. Second reason is, I don't know if Steve will remember this, they brought in those 2 gigantic black guys that played under the hoop. They had shoulders out to here.
I think that
They came from River Hills, if I remember.
right. And Volpe was the coach. Wasn't
Yes.
David? No, he was with us.
No,
I don't
he was with
remember.
us.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but those 2 guys couldn't be stopped under the hoop, and they destroyed us. So, one, I was in a traumatic experience. I totaled a car before. And then 2, these guys crushed us.
But Fielder and Damon didn't take care of them?
No. Fielder and Damon combined didn't weigh as much as one of them. One of them was really big boy. I mean,
Football players probably.
that's what they were. They came from River Hills. They were football, but they could play basketball.
John, I want to ask you also about a Robinson story. When you played Robinson your senior year, you're already shaking your head. Desmond Allison, Chucky Powell, that was one of the – I don't know if Chucky – it was one of the great Robinson teams. Scott Wagers, who now coaches college basketball, was their head coach. But I remember after the game, like, we were trying to get you on the bus for your protection, and we were trying to get back to Bayshore, and they were going to follow the bus.
No, they did follow the bus.
What happened there? I don't remember.
Earlier in that day, you remember Brian Heskett, the big hockey player? Okay.
Yeah.
He played hooky from school. And there were some girls that went to Bayshore that transferred to Robinson. And I guess they were allowed to leave for lunch. So they showed up on the red top. And they started giving Tiffany Peterson a bunch of lip. And that was Brian Heskett's girlfriend. And me and Brian were boys.
Right.
So I called Brian up and I said, hey, I went to the payphone on the red top or whatever it's called. I called Brian. He said, I'm around the corner. He drives his truck through the grass right behind the office, yanks up into the red top on his truck, and gets these people out of there. And then later that night, we played played Robinson.
Right.
When I got there and we're warming up, I had probably 30 people, not at the same time, individually come down to the court and shoot some serious threats. And my father was there with all my stepbrothers, Mike's favorite stepbrothers. They all had guns on them. They were waiting for
We
it.
all had guns on us in the stands.
Yeah, everybody was strapped. And if you remember, at the end of the game, instead of getting on the bus, they put me in my dad's car with my stepbrothers.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Then they showed up after the game. So my head wasn't in that game, really. I think we lost. Didn't we lose?
Yeah, no, that I mean that
Yeah.
Robinson team was a superpower. I don't remember them going to the Final Four, but they beat everyone pretty badly. That was one of those early, it's the 90s, but it was like that early pace and space transition type full court press, turn you over to get offense type of teams. And they were really good at it. Wagers was really good at getting them to do a lot of things. So they were a tough ball club.
So just as another point, as I'm sitting here listening to everybody talk, when you want to discuss this better career, I would have never put my team in a position like that on game night. I would have done these punk moves. You know, it was team first. It's a team sport. It's just another example of why it's pretty cut and dry who had the best career.
Let's turn back to you, Mike. No, John's got something to say. John's got it.
I'd go out on a limb and say that if somebody messed with Kevin Noriega's girlfriend, if he had one, he would have actually stood up for her.
We didn't ever worry about that.
It just happened to catch up.
This is definitely fictional.
Yeah.
We never had to worry about that, did we, Mike?
Now, I do want to tell a story. You know, John and I's basketball competition goes back from when he was knee high, and I wouldn't let him get a shot off in the driveway I didn't care. I was torturous with him. So I also feel like the reason he's as good as he was at creating shots and doing those things is because as the older brother, I couldn't wait to pack his lunch every single time that ball left his hands. From the Nerf hoop in the living room to the house, the one in the driveway. But one of the most, hands down, the most exciting basketball games I've ever been a part of, I actually coached John at Incarnation Catholic School, my alma mater from middle school. And it was in the championship games. It was the semifinal, and Seminole Presbyterian was in this tournament. And they allowed 8th graders in that school to play, where we were, our 9th graders, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, because they're criminals over there at Seminole. Sorry.
No, we were 5th and 6th grade, and they would let the 7th and 8th grade play on the 5th and 6th grade.
Right.
Complete criminals.
So those guys played. That game went into triple overtime. John stole the ball, shot a layup, turned, faked, stole the inbounds pass, backed up, hit a 3-pointer to win the game at the buzzer.
Wow.
That's great.
It was, I can't even remember the rest. I know it was around Christmas because it was cold out. I had a sweater. I wrung it out. I was sweating. I had no voice left. It was just an incredible game from start to finish. And then one of the other teams, Villa Madonna, had to bail out of the tournament, and they allowed Seminole back in. We ended up facing them in the championship and losing by a few points. But we were so deflated because we had already won. The tournament was won the night we beat them in triple overtime.
Yeah, right.
And
yeah, they always cheated at everything.
Yeah.
If I was there right now, we'd blow that building up. Just kidding.
Don't say anything like that, Steve. Trust me.
I know.
John's got an attorney that he can give you a number to.
Yeah.
Saying stuff
Right.
like that.
Hey, Steve, you know who I work for, right? I might have to report you.
Right. Go ahead. I understand. So just kidding. Look, I wanted to ask about, I want to switch back to Mike and ask about Bloomingdale at Bayshore for the Bay Classic tournament. Faedo versus Travis Shinsis.
Yeah.
72-70. Shinsis is complaining in the newspaper about the crowd. Mike, do you remember that game? Tell us a little bit about what you remember of that.
I'm telling you, I don't. Honestly, they're all the same games. Everything was tension. Everything was, this is the biggest game of the season every time we stepped on the floor, because we definitely didn't want to lose to the 1A schools, which John did 9 times in 1 year, by the way. I might have lost 9 times in 3 years, but we definitely didn't want to lose to them, so it was pressure packed. And then when we were playing the big schools, it was 3 times that pressure. And, I'm just so thankful to be a part of Bayshore's basketball history and playing for Valdez. I try to explain to my buddies, it was like a college program for high school when he was the head of the school, the principal, the head basketball coach. We missed first and second period for 10 days straight to go practice at USF's gym to prepare for the open atmosphere of the Lakeland Civic Center.
Sure.
You know, there ain't another school alive that would have been able to pull that off, you know, and the teachers worked with you to make sure that you had your schoolwork done and everything else. It was just an incredible experience all the way around.
So Herman, that game y'all won 72-70 against 4A Bloomingdale. Herman is old school. So the Bayshore program during the 80s with you, Mike, was a well-oiled machine. John played in the Coach Sam era. And I'd like to hear, John, what your thoughts are about Coach Sam. You've already mentioned your teammates. Feel free to mention them again. The Coach Sam era felt like we were running towards the end of the dynasty, like we were running out of gas. It's getting harder and harder to maintain the wins. What was your thoughts about playing for Coach Sam and how it compared to the old school with Herman? Oh, we lost him.
We lost your audio, John.
John, we lost your audio. You need to call your daughter. He's good on my end. Mike, what do you think about, we'll wait on John to figure that out. It shows he's muted on my end. Mike, tell us about, you've said it a couple of times, but Herman was old school. I mean, I can remember the first practice I was at, they rolled out, they had two managers. One kid was named Jimmy Sisignana, or something like that. He went to plant, but they'd roll out the trash cans the sideline in preparation for throwing up from running.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, you go back and you look at it and you think, man, if he'd have just done this, we could have did this, you know. If he'd have just made some changes and it wasn't overloading 3 down and we just did a few but you can't argue with the guy's winning percentage. He did a great job. And one thing that it's almost like Krzyzewski for Duke. He gets the most out of the average players than any other coach out there on the planet, in my opinion. And Valdez did that, even though we got great transfers in. But the average players always showed up when they were supposed to. The Danny Strickland's hitting key baskets, you know, when he wasn't really supposed to be the guy. You know, just off-kilter guys that you wouldn't expect to step up. They stepped up. You know, Chris Pate scoring the games that he did in Evangel. It was just the way everybody fed off of each other.
3 points in the fourth quarter, buddy. 3 points.
It's like baseball when hitting's contagious. If everybody starts hitting, and funny enough, the 7, 8, 9 hitters they start getting singles, and it's contagious. Winning's contagious. The atmosphere's contagious. The mindset's contagious. And he just did a great job of instilling that in his players and buying into the system. And it might not have been the most 100% proof system, but if you bought in, man, the results were pretty good. You know?
That's for sure. That's for sure. John, do we have you back? We still can't hear him. I don't know.
That's God telling him that this argument's been over for a while. And you can go ahead and just exit this.
Look, he's trying to. Oh no.
He's gonna try to join again.
Yeah, that's the thing to do. Chris,
Well,
what do
Mike,
you got? What do you got for Mike?
Well, Mike, you may not remember that Bloomingdale game, but I sure remember it. Me and Kevin Daniels came to watch that game at Bayshore. It was a packed out house. And I think a lot of Travis's responses in the newspaper had something to do with maybe a little bit of us because we chased their guys all the way back to their cars.
I'm sure that's the case.
Oh. John's back.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him in.
But,
I remember playing Shintz's at their gym.
yeah, I was at that game too.
Them playing here, us playing them at our place.
Yeah.
John, can we hear you?
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Turn it up. Turn your
Turn
computer
your
up.
volume up.
All the way up. We didn't touch anything. Hold on.
We're like the guys with the 12 o'clock flashing on the VCR. You're good. I can hear you.
You can hear me good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
So let's go back to John while we got him before we lose him again. We we talked about Herman and old school. What's your Coach Sam thoughts? The Coach Sam era was great. Final Four, 2 district titles. Y'all were great basketball teams. What was it like playing for the new school with Coach Sam? Or was he new school?
Well, today I did a lot of thinking back because I figured there'd be some questions out today. I remember I got to think, I was with Bayshore longer than my brother because when he first got there, I was the mascot. I had the halftime shows. And I remember today for the first time, probably since it happened, whenever we would play Berkeley at halftime, they had that kid that would come out and play me one-on-one at halftime. That ended in like 3 fist fights in the 4 years. I mean, that's just what I remember that as a little kid. So I wanted to play for Coach Valdez. He offered me a spot when 10th grade. We were at practice. I guess it wasn't going too good with his point guard or whoever he had at the time. I'm not sure. He called me over from the JV practice. I ran the varsity practice. After practice, he said, "Hey, I want you to be my point guard." And I told him no. I was pretty loyal to Fielder because 6th grade, I got to Bayshore. Me and Fielder were on the same team from 6th grade till 10th grade. So I really didn't want to leave him, but I said, no, I'm going to stay. And then that's when Coach Sam took over. I like playing for Coach Sam. I think Coach Sam was a good coach. It was different than the crowds at Mike's games and your guys' games with everybody yelling and screaming and all the hoot, 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 hoot. Because for a Christian school, those crowds were pretty unchristian. Some stuff growing up that I couldn't even believe. But no, it was fun playing for Coach. If I look back now, would I have liked to gone up and played for Valdez a year? Probably. But I did. I stayed with my guys I was with since 6th grade. I mean, I don't regret doing it, but I would have liked to got 1 year with Coach Valdez to see how he was.
Give us some of the names of those. You got Fielder and Jed Kirby. Give us some of and Polito. Give us some of the other guys that you remember that were teammates.
Scott Crone was there. Who was one hell of a shooter. I mean, that guy could flat out shoot.
He had a sweet touch.
He did. He had a hell of a touch. See, a lot of people from 6th grade to 8th grade left. Polito, like Phillip, he left. That's when Sacco came in. George Suarez came in when I started high school. So it was a whole different bunch of guys. It was pretty much me and Fielder from the 5th and 6th grade team till we got to JV. So there wasn't a whole bunch of guys that stayed together except for me and Fielder, really.
Yeah.
I wish we could have done better in state. I'm like Mike. I don't remember all these games. I don't remember. Probably the biggest game I remember is the Seminole Presbyterian at Bayshore. Hit 9 threes. That's the only reason I remember that game. I put up like 36 points, and I just remember I could not miss. I mean, it was just everything I threw up was just bottom of the net. That's probably the most vivid game that I remember. Other than that, when
you remember RJ Henley.
Well, I remember the first couple plays, and then from there it was like worthless to even think about it. But I do remember I do remember the Bradenton Christian game where Bo hit the 3-pointer off the inbounds pass. I was pissed because they ran the play for Bo. I didn't think Bo was the right guy for the play. And
he delivered.
Well, what Sam said, look, this is the side of the floor we're on. He's a lefty. I want this inbounds pass thrown out of bounds so he can catch it and turn because we had no time. I mean, we had like 2 seconds.
That's right.
Once Sam said, hey, if you throw that out of bounds, he'll catch it and he'll have room to shoot. I said, all right, that's the play.
Yeah.
I'll be damned if Bo didn't make that shot. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a perfect pass. I couldn't tell you who made that pass, but
that was you. That was
right on the money. You know what? One other thing I regret. I don't regret it because I had no control. I was older than him. I would have loved to play with Elijah Piazza as my big man. If he would have started playing earlier than he did, because he didn't start playing until 8th grade. and he was just messing around. He wasn't serious. And I remember under that hoop when you first walk in, where they took your money, I would show Elijah in between periods, like big man moves, and I'm 5'3". I was just trying to get him, familiar with doing some moves. And he started doing them, and he was strong at the end of his career. But I would have liked to play with him if he would have had a few more years of experience, started earlier. I would have loved to have that kid on my team, because I think he scored over 1,000, didn't he?
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
great.
over 1,000.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best rebounders ever in school history. So
He was an animal.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I would have loved to have played with that kid.
You know, one of my biggest regrets is I didn't athletics, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but they sort of came easy. I played baseball, I played soccer, I played basketball. I never really worked hard at any of it. And I really wish I would have worked harder. I mean, not that Valdez's practices weren't strenuous enough, and we played pickup. We go for basketball practice on a Saturday, and they go right over to Pearl Street and play on the low hoops and everything else. But I just felt like I didn't work on my game like I should have outside of practice. I wish I would have just played a little bit harder than I did.
I agree. I agree with that.
No.
I think we all have those types of regrets. I wanted to move to the next question I had, which was not basketball related so much as favorite moment at Bayshore. It can be basketball, but is it a teacher? Is it something that happened with your friends at lunch? We're going to end this with me and Chris judging who had the better career. Are you ready for that, Pate? But before
let me go first on this one.
All right. Yeah, please.
This might get a little sentimental, but
That's totally out of character.
well, no, but this was important to me because I was thinking about this when I watched Herman's podcast with you guys. When Herman left and Donna took over, that's the year that my mom died. Okay. And Herman told Donna Brooks that my mom's wish to Herman was to make sure I graduate from Bayshore. And he told Donna that, and that happened. Even though I got sent home and I had to homeschool for the last 3 months of my senior year, they still kept me on the books, and I still graduated. I still walked down the aisle with all the people I went to school with for that much fun. So I'm always going to be grateful for Coach Valdez for that. So
That's great.
He made that promise and he kept it, and that was great. But I think my favorite time at Bayshore, and it's a comedy story. It's a real quick one. I think we're playing Santa Fe Catholic and Lakeland. Is that where they were, Steve?
Right. Yep.
Okay. That was a big Catholic school, and they had nuns and priests and everything in the stands. And I don't know if you or Dwayne was the assistant coach. It might have been both of you guys. But once you hear the story, you'll know if you were there. I got into early foul trouble. Okay. In the first half, 3 fouls. I had to sit out half the second quarter. Come out to start the third quarter, and the ref hits me with a hand check foul. Yeah. And it was dead silence. And my older brother, Steve, I don't know if you remember this. He told the ref, "You're a GD moron. You've got shit in your eyes." And it was dead silence. And you saw every priest turn around and look at him. And you saw 2 of the priests, I guess they were the head honchos there, walk up to him. And
I now remember.
Escort him
front for the second half.
I now remember.
You remember that?
Yes. I was not shocked.
No. There's so many good times. Just basketball practice, before practice, after school. We go to get in the car. We go to McDonald's. The same group of guys. We'd eat, go back, basketball practice.
What about the Piazza story? I thought you were going to tell me the Mr. Piazza story.
Oh man, yeah. See, every story I'm telling you has to do with fighting, and it makes it look like I'm a lover.
All right.
But all the people at Bayshore know that me and Mike Gonzalez got into a big fight after school, and he broke loose as I'm pulling out on a McDill in my car. He sucker punched me through the window. I got out. Mr. Piazza tried to break it up. I punched Mr. Piazza as hard as I could, and he didn't move a muscle. And And I think I infuriated the big man because he wrapped me up into a pretzel. I thought he was going to break me in half. I think he realized that he was going to break me in half, so he let me go and get back in the car so I can go home.
That's funny.
Love
That is
Mr.
great.
Piazza. Love him.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
great.
Great guy.
Mike, your favorite moment?
Well, I would say anything between my freshman and senior year were my favorite moments. That's just how much I enjoyed high school. And, you look at the basketball team, Teen Wolf every single day for 7 days when we had that week worth of late practices for
Twin
$1
Bays.
at Twin Bays. We did it as a team for 7 days. We all went to see Hoosiers before we went to the state championship.
Yes.
Hoosiers, right?
State members.
Going to Valdez's house and Patterson and I playing peanuts and getting all jacked up while everybody's eating at the coach's house, riding in coach's van as the starting five to and from the games. Some of my fondest memories is Miss Balan, which is Miss Wynett to me. That's how at school I loved that lady. And man, I had just so much laughter with her and the teachers and the cutting up, and every class was a new just a new experience every single day because you just didn't know what cutting up we were going to do. And man, we just had a blast,
I don't know if you remember this, Mike. We had practice one day run by Coach Dibble, and this is my senior year, so you're there. And Dibble is running practice, and he's mad because we're not listening to him. And he tells everybody on the line. So we get on the line, and I don't know if you remember. So he's going to tell us to run a sprint, and we all talk to each other. So let's just run out the gym. He blows the whistle, and we all just ran out the front of the gym, and you can hear him in the background going, "Hey, come back here! Come back here!" Do you remember that?
I do now that you say that story.
Yeah, and then Coach Valdez comes back next day, and we ran suicides till we puked for like hours. But
Well, I don't know if you ever played with us, Steve, but after high school, Coach Dibble was a good friend. We all went and watched football and stuff all the time. So one time Patterson and I stole his keys and we made a copy of the gym key. So after we would go to Blueberry Hill and Cha-Cha Coconuts, us and 9, 10, 8 other guys would go to Bayshore. We'd jump over the concrete wall on the church side, use the key to get into the boys' locker room. Before we turn on all the lights in the gym, we take the gymnastic mats and put it up on the door so they couldn't see the light through there.
right.
Alyssa's mom lived grandma lived across the street, so we didn't want her to
Alyssa Wooten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we play 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5 all night long. There was times where we threw up in the garbage can, locked the door as the janitor was pulling into to the morning of for the next day at school.
I don't remember the copying of the key, but I know when I came back from law school, so it's early 90s. Early 90s, we would take a brick. So if you had a key, I don't know why we did this, but we'd take a brick and you press down on the door, and if you just popped a brick on the top of it, it would pop open.
Right.
This was so you could get in. It was before modern alarms and things like that. But we all used to try to get in there late at night and play. So that's really funny. John, we lost you there. Where'd you go? You left the screen. Where did you go?
It's confidential information. I had to blow my nose, and I didn't want to do it on the screen in front of her.
So
let me end it by one of my probably favorite moments, and it's really not. It is Bayshore related. You get down to, and I might get a little emotional. I'm gonna try not to, but
He's done.
yeah.
Everything that's instilled with us as students and athletes at Bayshore, it just comes full circle. So when my mom passed away, Valdez was at the funeral, and I just got up, took the microphone, and did a eulogy off the top of his head, and it was just so touching. And that means more than the hoops and the points and better careers or anything else. just come down to just a super incredible experience. And that's why I love everybody, associated with high school. It was incredible,
I remember that to a T.
But that's really very touching and very moving, and it's really not even worth talking about basketball anymore. That's the best way to end it, in my view, because that speaks everything. Mike's and John's mom was beloved by so many. Chris, you got anything to wrap up?
Feared by so many too.
Yeah.
Yes. Chris?
No, guys, thanks so much for coming on. It's great to see you both. Mike, I enjoyed playing with you, being on that team with you, the camaraderie that we shared, and being a part of a family. John, man, I just always remember you as the pregame and postgame highlights, man. Such a great kid to watch, man. And I was, happy to hear that you had such a great career at Bayshore. And it's just great to see you guys again. I hope we can do this soon, in person. Steve and I are working on that right now. Love you both, you guys, man. Glad that we're all part of the BCS family. And thanks for coming on and sharing your stories, guys.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Bayshore Brothers. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Take care.
You go, guys.
All right. We'll see ya.